How's everybody doing today? Sunday, what is it now? July 20, what is it, 28th? No, whatever. Sunday, July 27th or 8th or something like that. And I just got back from the West Coast. I was out in the West Coast for a few days. Mrs. Outlaw and I doing some fishing and doing some exploring. Went on a couple little hikes, and had a good day of fishing. I showed you guys a quick little picture of one of the fish I got, and I'm gonna do some editing maybe tonight. I'm friggin' beat. Just got home and I was kind of contemplating strapping on my boots and going for a hike, and I went and got changed, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. So I might do some editing tonight of my fishing and our little day of exploring out there, and maybe get that video out to you guys tomorrow or the next day or whatever. Early this week, I hope. But yeah, we had a great weekend. The weather was pretty decent. It wasn't too hot, which is nice. And got some fish, which is nice. Because I've only got 1 month. I have 1 month to put my fish up for winter. And this weekend was a good start. But I need probably another 15 to 18 fish, salmon, to put up for winter. And I got a month to do that. And in that period of time, I got to get ready for hunting. And I got lots to do to get ready for hunting. So anyhow, what I thought I would do is, because I'm exhausted and I don't feel like going for a hike, I just thought what I would do is share this friggin' email of Martin's with you guys. Martin, if you're new to here, Martin's the fellow who emailed me a little while back, and I read his email to everybody, 4 or 5 days ago when I went on that morning hike. And when I got his first email, I was just captivated. And not even by the topic of Bigfoot or anything, just the fact that this man lived the life that I dream of still. I've dreamed about it for years, and I still dream about it now. He lived, I should kind of rewind that a little bit, saying he lived the life that I dream of or whatever. He lived alone, okay? I'm not saying I want to be alone. God almighty, Mrs. Outlaw heard me say that, she'd be smacking me up the back of the head. But the part of Martin's life that I just find fascinating and I'm just captivated with is the fact, the part of his life is that he spent his entire life out in the bush, trapping and hunting and fishing and looking after himself, and for almost 41 years, which is unbelievable. He's one of very few dying breed, for sure. And anyway, so I was just captivated by it, and then on top of that, the fact that he's had encounters with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, forest people, whatever you want to call them, and it crazy. I mean, it's not crazy because you got to think the guy spent 41 years. Let's just say at 40, because I think he said he was 4 months shy of 41 years. But 40 years he spent in the remote Yukon. And I know the area that he lived in. I've never been right there, but I hunt just south of that. So I know the area that he spent his life in, and it's remote, rugged country. And, for 40 years, every single day. You guys think I spend a lot of time in the bush? Man, this guy lived in the bush. And it sounds like, I did have a conversation with Martin, right? So I had a quick call with him for we chatted for probably 15 or 20 minutes, and he had to go, but we're going to talk again because like I could sit and listen to the guy for hours. But anyways, he had 3 significant encounters with these beings. He says, I got to tell you this story, man. And he tells me the story or whatever, and I'm like, there, whatever. I listen, right? Because God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should be doing more listening and less damn talking. So anyways, I listen, and I'm just listening to him, and he calls them stories, and I'm like, they're experiences. They're, because stories can be fabricated or whatever. And so when people say, hey, I got a story for you, I call it an encounter because I'm not going to ever call anybody a liar. And by saying I don't believe you, that's bullshit or whatever, you're calling that person a liar, and that pisses me right off. For somebody that you don't even know to call them a liar because they're sharing something with you, you know what? Get over yourself. Anyways, listening to Martin, and he's like, yeah, three times that I've run into these buggers, and he had all these funny little names and sayings and whatnot, but there was far more other times after talking with him, so he sent me an email that's like a mile long, and it's got both the other 2 encounters in that email, but I'm just going to read the one for today and save the other one for another time because they're pretty long, right? But there was other times that he had shit go on that he is like, I'd see something out of the corner of my eye, and he goes, I don't know what it was, but he heard sounds that he heard sounds that he just couldn't explain and stuff. And I mean, to me, those are encounters as well. But for him, it's not like he just goes, okay, well, those were what they were. That noise, whatever, I don't know what it was. But these things here these encounters are like in your face, right? So, anyways, what a friggin' cool dude. So I want to call him again. I'm probably not going to be able to call him until, well, maybe when I'm away on my holidays, because I'm trying to get set up so that I have cell reception at my cabin. And right now it's terrible, but I'm looking at a system that I can hopefully get a bit better cell reception at the cabin and share more stuff with you guys. So I've ordered this setup. Hopefully it works. I don't know if it works or not, but I've ordered it. Should be here Tuesday. I'm heading out Thursday, and I'll try to get it set up, and then maybe I can do some more stuff from my cabin, right? Because it's pretty remote. But anyways, if I do that, I might be able to have a chat with Martin next week. Maybe have a phone conversation with him next week sometime. Maybe one morning I'm up early or whatever, and I'll give him a phone call and sit and have a coffee and have a bullshit with him. So anyways, like say 15-20 minute chat the other day, and it's just like I was like a little kid. I'm like a little kid listening to a bedtime story. I'm just like, and then what happened? And then what'd you do? And then what'd you see? Right? Anyways, I just love the older people because I always have. They have so much to share, and man, we got to listen to them. We got to listen to our elders. So anyways, no beautiful scenery today except for the trophy room. But I'm just going to read out Martin's second email that he sent us. And I did reemphasize to him that I was going to share these, and he asked me just not to share his last name, which of course, out of total respect for him, I won't. But so anyways, here we go. I did read this out on the boat the other day, and you guys will see that later. I read it to myself or whatever, but I just couldn't wait. I'm going to probably get out for a hike, maybe not tomorrow, but the next day in the morning, as long as it's somewhat cool. And I was going to wait till then, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, to read this. But when I got home, I read it again, and I'm just like, I gotta freaking I gotta share this with you guys, because this guy just his experiences just blow my mind. Okay, so here we go. Hello, Darren. Thanks for emailing me back. I would love to have a phone call with you and chat about my experiences as a trapper. I've got a lifetime of stories I could share. Feel free to call any time. I'm glad you found my email about the Bigfoot interesting. I never had any friends most of my life until I moved back to town. And even now, I've only got a handful of people that I associate with. There's another old trapper here in town that I have coffee with several times a week. We can talk for hours about trapping and hunting. Before I reached out to you, there was only 3 people I shared my sightings with, and only one of those people believed me. He was also a trapper. He was also a trapper that had a line about 150 miles northwest of my area. Sorry guys, there's not really very many periods or anything here. Martin's just writing those down, it looks like, but he was also a trapper that had a line about 150 miles northwest of my area. We would see each other maybe once or twice a year at best. When I told him about it, he said he had seen one of them several years ago walking the frozen river. The others I told said, "Yeah, right, Martin. You've been in the bush too long, old man." The heck with them, I say. Anyways, the second time I ran into one of these people was about 1987, I believe. It was early October, and I had just finished quartering a caribou and got it hung on my pole by my skinning shack. It was late afternoon, and I went into the cabin to clean up for the night when I heard a strange noise outside. I went outside and heard a pretty loud moaning sound coming from the timber behind my skinning shack. I heard maybe half a dozen moans and then dead quiet. I sat down outside waiting to see what might come out, and after a bit I caught movement in the trees behind my meat pole. It was moving very slow and was about 30 feet into the trees. I could tell it was one of them again, but this one was much different. It looked to be only about 6 feet tall, but very thick in the chest and shoulders. It was moving really slow through the trees. I watched getting closer to my meat pole, and then I realized the bugger was going to take my caribou. All I did was stood up in front of the cabin, and that thing saw me immediately and stopped. It was completely motionless, and so was I. After a minute or two, I heard a low, quiet grunt, and this thing took a few steps away from me into the trees and vanished from my sight. Wow. I kept an eye on my meat pole as I was getting supper ready, but never saw another thing. The next morning, I went outside. I walked over to where this thing had been and once again saw tracks in the snow. These ones weren't near as big as Four Toes was. They were probably the size of my boot, maybe a little bigger. There was only a few inches of snow on the ground, so it was very easy to see the tracks. I did follow them for a few minutes and then decided to stop as I thought no good would come of me following this thing. I did notice that there was a couple spots where this thing stopped and turned back slightly towards my cabin, maybe checking to see that I wasn't following it. I think these beings have superior senses to ours. They are much like the wolves, wolverine, lynx, and other intelligent fur-bearing animals that I've spent my life trapping. Except I think they are smarter. Wolves are likely the smartest animal in the woods, and the wolverine are right there with them. These beings are far more alert, and I imagine their hearing and their sense of smell is probably incredible. I hope it's not too much for this email, but I'll share my last story that took place about 8 years later. I'm not gonna read that one right now. I'm gonna save that one for later. But we chatted a little bit about this when I spoke with Martin, and like when I'm out hunting, like we spoke just a little bit about this encounter that they had this meat hanging on the pole, and it's exactly what we do when we're hunting. You quarter your animal, and he had 4 quarters hanging there in the meat pole, and he said that his plan was to butcher it up later, the next day or whatever, and but bizarre to think that one of these things. I mean, obviously his first encounter, that one came right in and around his cabin, circled his cabin. But crazy that one came in, and was it in fact going to that meat pole? Who knows, right? And I asked him that. I said, "Do you really think it was going after that caribou?" And he's like, "Well, what else? What else was it there for?" And good point, right? I mean, they've got to eat. These things likely eat anything they can find, and if they got wind of fresh meat hanging in a tree, they're going to go after it. All other animals do. All other predators. I've had grizzlies rip a moose quarter right out of a tree, 15 feet up a tree. And they'll, if they stand up in their back legs and they can reach the leg of the quarter or whatever, if they can get at any of that quarter when standing up, I've had grizzlies rip it right down off the pole and drag it away. And I've had wolves come into camp because they smell that fresh kill. Wolves are so smart, right? Wolves will come into the area. I've had wolves surround my tent in the middle of the night, like a pack of them, a dozen strong, come in and surround my tent in the middle of the night because I got a moose hanging there. But they'll skirt around the perimeter and they'll howl and make noise and whatnot. And I've never had them come right into the meat pool, but I have had grizzlies do it. So I was just like, holy shit! Do they do this as well? And what's really interesting is I found, another thing that's really interesting with this encounter is that this thing was average size. Right? You don't hear that very often. That generally they're people that are eyewitnesses are telling you that these things are huge, massive, 7 to 10 feet or bigger. And Martin said that that this one was like 6 feet. So it's just the size of a normal man. And no, that wasn't a man in there. His cabin's, I forget how many hundreds of kilometers. He used to have to either fly in or canoe into his cabin, and I forget how many hundreds of kilometers from the nearest road he is, but he's a long ways, so it wasn't a person. But yeah, crazy, man. And I did read Martin's third encounter, which he says his third encounter has stuck with him more than anything else, more than these other two. And I mean, obviously the first one, he saw this thing clear as day. This one here, it sounds like although it was dusk, it sounds like he got a pretty good visual on it. Well, the third one's a little different, but he said that third one stuck with him, and I read the email, and it's sticking with me, let me tell you. And I'll get to reading that one. Maybe I'll get that one ready for like the weekend or whatever, and throw it out there for you guys to hear, because if you're a hunter, an outdoorsman, outdoors person, and you hear this third encounter, you're going to go, Holy shit. It's got me going, holy shit, let me tell you. But anyways, great man. I'm gonna really have I want to really set aside some time and have a great conversation with him, because he sounds like a hell of a man. And I just love to hear his stories. So once I do talk to him, I'm going to see if possibly I don't know if he has an iPhone or what he has, but I'm going to see if we can possibly do a FaceTime call or something along those lines and video it, if he's okay with that. But I kind of don't know if he will be, because he asked me not to share his last name. You know, he's got a reputation, you know, he probably has a reputation in the Yukon, and maybe he doesn't want to be ridiculed for that or whatever. So fair enough. That's his decision, and I respect that. So anyways, thought I'd read that for you guys. Pretty cool. I got 10 or 12 more emails from other people, and I will read them. I promise you. Those of you that sent me in your experiences, I promise you I'll read them. It's just a matter of time. I wanted to sort of get Martin's out of the way here, because, you know, he shared 1, 2, and 3, and I want to get those read, so I will, and then I'll get on to the other ones at some point in time. I just don't know exactly when. Okay. And sometime this week we'll get a fishing video out for you guys. So that's it. I'm beat. I'm going to go kick my feet up and relax a little bit, and maybe start editing some of my fishing videos. So I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope you got out and did something that you enjoy to do, even if it's only for 10 or 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. And if you're unable to get out, enjoy the wilderness for some physical reason, but you do enjoy it, come here. Come with me. You're always welcome with me. Okay? I always have room for people to come exploring with me. So join me. All right? Okay, I'm going to get the hell out of here, go kick my feet up, do a little bit of editing, and we'll catch you guys in a few days. All right? Be safe, everybody. Take care. How close to the rocks I fish here in this spot.